Hello, and welcome back to a demo video going over or covering horizontal analysis as well as vertical analysis. Excuse me. So I want to cover exercise 18-4. I'm in the ebook and it's on page 819. So what we have here is we have the comparative condensed income statement for Emily Corporation, and we have the income statement or the income statement for 2017 as well as 2016. So what we need to do is prepare a horizontal analysis of the income statement data using 2016 as a base. And then we need to do vertical analysis, okay? And we need to compute the liquidity ratio and compare the results. So I know we didn't get into, I know we didn't get into the ratios yet, but I'll just demonstrate how to do those liquidity ratios. Okay, so looking at the horizontal analysis, remember we go from left to right or right to left, depending on how it's set up, right? So 2016, that's our base year. We're going to compare everything to 2017, okay? So what we need to do is figure out what is the change, right? So I'm going to take the new number, 2017, subtract the old number. That shows that I'm 60% above 2016 numbers, right? So net income, or net sales, excuse me, increased over the year by 60 grand. We want to figure out what percentage that is, okay? In order to figure out that percentage, we want to take the change amount and we want to divide that by the old amount, okay? Another way we could do that is we could say, okay, to calculate the percentage, I'm going to take the change. So I'm going to open parentheses, net income for 2017 minus net income for 2016, close parentheses, divide by the old number, which is the 2016 number. And we get 10%, okay? So another way to, and I'll just put it here, another way to think about it is we take the new number or the new amount minus old amount. And then we divide by the old amount, okay? So we're going to do the same thing for cost of goods sold. We're going to take the new amount minus the old amount, and we see that the cost of goods increased from 2016 to 2017 by $63,000. Again, we want to figure out what is that percentage change. Very easy, right? The old amount minus the new amount. Well, we already have that, so we could just take that 63,000 and then divide it by the old amount, the 2016 base cost of goods sold. We get 15%. Okay. Now let's look at gross profit. Gross profit, again, we take the new minus the old, and we see that we have a negative $3,000. That means that our gross profit dropped $3,000 based on 2016 numbers. To figure out what that percentage is, very easy to do. We take our change amount and divide it by the old, which is $180,000. Oh, I'm going to take this out to a decimal place and notice that it's negative. Okay, so we had a negative decrease. Yeah. We're going to do the same thing for operating expenses. Now, let me show you a way to make this a heck of a lot easier. We can use Excel, right? We told cell E6, I want you to take whatever's in B6 and subtract it from whatever's in C6. If we just get our little crosshairs and click and drag down, it already does the math for us, okay? We could do the same thing with this, right? To figure out the percentage change. You need to know new minus the old divided by the old amount, but we already kind of did that here in Excel, right? We said take the change amount, which is in E6, and I want you to divide that amount by whatever's in cell reference C6, which is the 2016 gross profit amount, right? If we click and drag down, look what we did. We said, okay, I want you to figure out what the percentage change in is in operating expenses. It's 4.2%. How did I do that? Well, we can look right up here and see that I went to E7, which is the amount, and I divided by the amount that's in C7, okay? So we could see here that, again, horizontally looking, using 2016 as my base year, that our net income dropped $8,000 or 13.3% compared to last year, okay? That's horizontal analysis. Super easy as long as you remember how to calculate the numbers. New amount minus old amount divided by old amount, that gives us the percentage change. Or we could just calculate the change amount or the amount that's changed and divide it by the old amount. Either way works. Again, doing horizontal analysis, we got to have a base year. And the problem said that 2016 was our base year, okay? Next, part B says, hey, we want you to do some vertical analysis on the income statement. Okay, not a problem. The first thing we need to remember from our lecture is what is our base, right? What are we comparing all of these line items to? Well, it's always going to be net sales, okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take net sales divided by net sales, and I get 100%, okay? So now doing vertical analysis, right? Notice we're focusing on 2017 first. What's the percent of cost of goods sold to sales in 2017? Well, that's easy. I take my cost of goods sold item, divide it by my divided by my base, which when we're using the income statement, the base is always net sales. I'd write that down because I'm sure it's going to be a question. Hey, I'm doing vertical analysis. What do I use as my base? Well, if you're using the income statement, guess what? It's net sales. If we're doing the balance sheet, it is the assets or total assets that we use, okay? So here we are at the income statement. Need to do vertical analysis, cost of goods sold divided by net sales, and I get 73%. And actually, I'm going to take all these out, just one decimal spot, okay? We do the same thing for gross profit. We want to know what percent of gross profit is sales. Well, take my gross profit, divide by my sales, and I get 26.8%. Do the same thing with operating expenses. Okay, and then we do the same thing with, excuse me, our net income. Boom, and we get 7.9%. So basically, we could say for every dollar of net sales, almost 8 cents ends up being net income. for 2017, okay? We could compare that to 2016 numbers. How well did we do based on a percentage of each of these items based on net sales? So we go to 2016. We use 2016's net sales as the base, okay? So to figure that out, I'm just going to take 2016 net sales divided by 2016 net sales. I get 100%, okay? The key is when we're doing vertical, we're only focusing in on this income statement. If I'm doing vertical analysis and I'm doing 2016 vertical analysis, I will never, ever look to 2017. That's horizontal analysis. We're doing vertical. So everything has to be within the same year. So we do the same thing, right? We take our cost of goods sold for 2016 divided by net sales for 2016. Same thing with cost of goods, or I'm sorry, gross profit. Gross profit for 2016 divided by 2016 net sales, 30%. So we could see that for every dollar we sell, or let me phrase that, in 2016, for every dollar that was sold, 30 cents of that ends up being gross profit. We do the same thing with our operating expenses. Divide them again by 2016 net sales, 20%. And then we do the same thing with net income. And we get 10%. So that means that for every, in 2016, for every dollar we sold, 10 cents of that ended up being net income, okay? So now we can compare and contrast doing vertical analysis. Well, was 2017 better than 2016? Well, sales were higher, but if we look at the bottom line, the net income, they were a little, net income was a little lower compared to 2016. 10% of every sale in 2016 went to the bottom line. In 2017, 8% of each sale dollar went to the bottom line, okay? And then we're going to go ahead and do, the problem says, do the liquidity ratios and compare the ratios, okay? So I'm going to show you here how to do the current ratio, right? So when we're looking at the current ratio, bear with me here. Actually, you know what? I don't want to jump into this right now. I'd rather go over the building blocks of analysis ratio and then come back and look at each individual ratio, and then we'll work on an example. I think that'll be a little bit more beneficial because you'll see exactly what exactly we're talking about here. Okay, so no problem. Tune back in, and then we'll jump right into that ratio analysis.